Hey, what's happening everyone? This is George Bean, and tonight I'm doing an announcement video for a new film coming out next year. It's this time once again concerning a new Halloween film. Now of course, if you happen to have seen my fan commentaries on the first two Halloween movies, you could tell that I am a loving fan of those said films. I even consider the first film to be my personal favorite scary movie of all time. So tonight I decided to do a video on an announcement that was made a long while ago about a new Halloween film being developed. First, I'm going to go into some detail about how this movie first came about, so if you want to skip it, you can skip to me finally talking about the new movie at this time. So, here goes. After the overall disaster that was Rob Zombie's sequel to his Halloween remake that was released in 2009 to overly negative reviews and a disappointing box office return of $39 million, it put a possible Halloween 3 on hiatus for the next few years. It was much like what Independence Day 2 had to go through when it was trying to be made. Scripts were being tossed around, possible release dates had to be pushed back several times, and so on. But also, Zombies Halloween 2, or H2 as I'm going to call it, was a major disappointment to the Halloween fan base, criticizing it for its overuse of profanity, graphic gore, and nudity. Its protagonist found to be very unlikable, and the characterization of Michael Myers to be just awful. And to be honest, as a loving fan of the original Halloween, I really do agree with their arguments. What makes the original a classic is that it uses slow-burning, suspenseful tension to frighten the audience. Its villain, Michael Myers, was much more of a menacing killer, and had little to no graphic gore in it, all of which Rob Zombie's movies obviously contrast it. So after H2, a lot of people believe that the next film should go back to the franchise's original roots and should be a sequel to the '78 original. And I felt the same way as well. I even felt that it should go back to the spirit of the 1978 film. I felt it should somehow be a sequel to the original. Don't care how. I just want to see it done that way. Hell, I even thought that they should introduce Sam Loomis's son, David Loomis or something, and now grown-up Tommy Lee Doyle as the main protagonist, chasing down Michael Myers, who has resurfaced 30 years after the initial spree. But believe it or not, there was another part of me believing that this new Halloween movie shouldn't be made at all, as I felt that they were just possibly going to fuck it up anyway. History has proven that 1,000 times. Back in 2011, the film was announced and was to be titled Halloween 3D, and it initially had Patrick Lussier and Todd Farmer, the same guys who made My Bloody Valentine, the 3D remake, were tapped in to write the script, but they dropped out due to their working on another horror film, which was to be the Hellraiser reboot. But of course, we all probably know how that has now turned out. As a result, the Weinstein Company had to push its intended 2012 release back. Truthfully, I'm glad they dropped the 3D gimmick, as it just makes it feel like they're just further beating a dead horse. At one point, Dimension Films teamed with Michael Bay's production company Platinum Dunes, famous for remaking famous horror films such as The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Amityville Horror, and so on reimagining Halloween based on a pitch by storyboard artist Federico De Alessandro, which consisted of concept art and a storyboard short featuring a different version of Michael's escape from the sanitarium. But of course, as we all know, it didn't work out either, so the pitch was scrapped and Dimension and Platinum Dunes went their separate ways. To be honest, I like the Alessandro's pitch, as it seems to try to retain the home invasion theme from the original, but with new twists in the film to make it different and fresh. It's just a crying shame that this project didn't get greenlit, and it probably would have been Platinum Doom's next big hit, probably, if they'd have done it right. After a while, even though the Weinstein Company has been successfully trying to make another Halloween film, it almost certainly felt like the possibility of the new film had flatlined. That is until February of this year, when it was announced that Patrick Melton and Marcus Dunstan of Feast, Saw 4 through 7 or 3D and Piranha 3D fame were tapped to write the script, with Dunstan directing, and even the film was given a new title called Halloween Returns. Gee, that reminds me of that one movie called Superman Returns. They're claiming that their new film is not a remake, nor even a reboot, but what they call, in their words, a recalibration of the Michael Myers character. The plot, based on what we've been given, is said to be a standalone sequel set sometime after the events of the original film, set to reintroduce Michael Myers years after his initial spree, so it will also pit a new group of Haddonfield youngsters against Myers. The main protagonist is supposedly an 18-year-old teen who is also the child of one of Myers' victims, and is friends with a teen girl whose father is a cop who's long been obsessed with Myers, even putting it before his own daughter. Myers is now on death row, and the two teens, with their own personal vendettas against the killer, sneak in to watch his execution. But when things go awry and Myers escapes, the pair, along with their friends, find themselves in the firing line. According to some sources I found, it is suspected that the cop is Gary Hunt, the police deputy who is in Halloween 2, who is taking over Sheriff Brackett's manhunt with Dr. Loomis. If that is true, then I think this can be a good thing, as I did like Deputy Hunt in Halloween 2, and it would be refreshing to have an old character from one of the original films returning. As of this video, there is no confirmed information over what exactly it is a sequel to, whether it be the 1978 film or its 1981 sequel, but it is said that it will use the 1978 original as a template for this film, even trying to recreate the spirit of the original that made it a classic. Based on watching and reading the interviews from Dunstan and Melton, it really does feel like they truly want to respect the original film in every way possible, certainly taking back the franchise and doing it justice. They've even said they've looked to the 1978 film as inspiration to their film, retaining the subtlety and suspense of the original. I really do hope that they stay true to their word, because I do feel this franchise has spent too much time focusing on graphic violence and crappy plots that flip-flop the chronologically, which would make the X-Men film franchise timeline make a run for its money. It's time the Halloween franchise went back to its original roots, and proved that horror movies can be scary without graphic gore. And I really hope the studio doesn't fuck it up again, as they've done with other previous horror movies they've made, such as Halloween 6, The Crow 2, and even the Black Christmas remake. And also, what made Michael Myers so menacing in the first film is because he was a man of 21 who had a normal physique. He was like a specter, even portrayed as being the boogeyman, who was moving about stealthily in the shadows, hence his nickname The Shape. But then the sequels gave him backstory, which basically ruined the mystery behind him. And not only that, but they've also turned him into a tall, physically strong, hulking man, the same thing that happened to Jason Voorhees in the Friday the 13th franchise. I do hope that Dunstan goes back to making Michael a regularly physiqued man with a sense of mystique around him, maybe even going back to calling him The Shape at one point. Though no confirmation on castings yet, but Dunstan claims to want Gillian Jacobs of Community fame for a major role. Principal photography for the film is set to begin in this fall, to give the film a fall feeling, and it is set for a 2016 release. In conclusion, I really do have hopes for this movie. I want him to go back to the roots of the original films and do it justice. I'm already liking what I am hearing from it, and I do hope that it turns out great. I have high hopes for Halloween Returns, and I really do hope it turns out amazing and a vast improvement over the other films. So, thanks for watching, ladies and gents, and until then, I'll see you next time. Peace!